What's up, Ragin Nation? How's it going? This is Alex Yu watching a Ragin Ronin review. I got a review for you. Last night I saw Captain America the Winter Soldier, and it is of course the sequel to Captain America the First Avenger, and it takes place after the events of the Avengers. And speaking of the Avengers, I had some pretty high expectations going into this film because a lot of the critics were saying that Captain America the Winter Soldier is as great as or better than the Avengers. And let me tell you something, my expectations were met and exceeded. Now, with regards to this review, you don't have to worry about spoilers. I'm not going to go to spoiler territory. I'm not going to talk about any specifics about the film. I'm just going to talk about how I felt and my reaction towards the film, and I'm going to give it a score out of 10. So let's talk about the story. The story is essentially comprised of 3 acts. All right, the film rather. The film is made up of 3 acts, and each one of these acts has a very specific theme. Act 1 is about Captain America, or rather Steve Rogers' personal story, and basically how he deals with living in the modern world today. All right, of course he's from the past, so he has to cope with dealing in today's world and society. Act 2's theme is the theme of a political thriller, kind of like a Tom Clancy Splinter Cell movie. And Act 3 is when the studios remind us that we're watching a Marvel film. In fact, a Marvel film based off an Avengers character. And you know what? I'm not going to give too much away about the story, but I'll tell you that I really love the fact that they gave us a fictional story with a very modern and real spin on a comic book story. And it really brings it home for us as an audience because it helps us connect to the story and the events of the film. Now let's talk about the characters. Captain America is of course back, and this time around he's more developed, and we continue to see his evolution as the leader of the Avengers team. This time he's not with the Avengers, but he's dealing with some issues, and that is of course what I mentioned before, and is dealing with living in the world today. And we're reminded that his character is the most human of the Avengers. I mean, he's not like Tony Stark, who's a millionaire playboy. He's not a demigod like Thor, and he's not dealing with anger management issues like Bruce Banner. He is a warm-hearted human being, and he's self-aware. He wants to know what's right and what's wrong. He's questions himself and what he's doing and the things around him. And there's a certain level of innocence to his character that really helps us as the audience connect with his character. Now let's talk about the supporting cast. We have Black Widow back, played by Scarlett Johansson, and she's more developed this time around as a character, and we get to see more of her personal story. And this time around it covers a little bit more of some of the mysterious elements about her character that was talked about in the Avengers. Samuel Jackson is back as Nick Fury, the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., and this time around we get to see him in action. In the Avengers we got to see him in some brief action sequences, but this time around he gets to run the show, and of course we get to see more of what his character is all about. But you know what's cool? They bring back some familiar faces, like for example Peggy Carter, Jasper Sitwell, and also it was a delight to see Kobe Smulders back playing Maria Hill. But some of the greatest things about Captain America Winter Soldier is not just the characters that we used to know and we know from before, but it's the new supporting cast. And this new supporting cast consists of veterans like Robert Redford, who plays Alexander Pierce, the senior leader of S.H.I.E.L.D., and then we also got Sharon Carter, played by Emily Van Camp. We got Batroc the Leaper, played by GSP, and also Brock Rumlow, played by Frank Grillo. And I gotta say that I really enjoyed his performance. I mean, Brock Rumlow is a bit of a badass as a field operative, and I just really enjoyed every scene that he was in. So very, very cool. But I gotta tell you, I gotta give 2 big thumbs up to Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson, aka Falcon. I mean, I love every scene that Sam Wilson is in. Okay, it's not just the Falcon, but Sam Wilson. I mean, I think Anthony Mackie is a really great actor, and him as Sam Wilson, he's got this really great chemistry with Steve Rogers, and Falcon has a great chemistry with Captain America. It's kind of like what War Machine, you know, Colonel James Rhodes, that has a chemistry and a relationship with Iron Man / Tony Stark. I mean, they got their own thing going on in the Iron Man films, while Falcon and Captain America have their own chemistry. Alright, so very, very cool. And which leads me to talk about the title character, the Winter Soldier, and all I can say is, wow. The character of the Winter Soldier is really what helps move the story forward. I mean, he's mysterious, he's scary, and he's completely relentless. In my opinion, I felt that Red Skull in the first Avenger wasn't quite the villain that Captain America fans deserved. I understand why they had to put Red Skull in Captain America the First Avenger, but he's not quite a formidable opponent. He's feared, but he's not formidable. I understand why they put him on. He's the arch nemesis, but let me tell you something. The Winter Soldier is the villain that is right up to par with Captain America, and this is the villain that really deserves that that title. Okay, Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Now, this leads me to talk about the action. Now, the action in Captain America Winter Soldier is nothing like we've ever seen before. Captain America, like I said before in the earlier part of the review, is the most human, and therefore the action in Captain America is not about destroying bad guys with crushing blows or shooting at them with lightning or flying around in suits of armor. This is pure raw action in its physical form. Okay, I mean, they're bringing it back to basics. Captain America's is essentially his superhuman ability is essentially being stronger and faster. His strength is in his physical abilities, and we totally see that because the action sequences are really, really well done. They are hard-hitting, and it isn't just about great fight choreography. It's about feeling the hits and using the action as an extension of his character. They're not fighting just for the sake of fighting, or they're not fighting just because they have to put out another action sequence. Every move that Captain America makes is an exhibition of his ever-evolving physical skills as both a soldier and a leader, and it shows from his athleticism, his acrobatic work, his parkour, his fight training, and of course his signature, which is his ever so cool ability to use his shield in the most effective way. And even though Captain America is the main character, the directors give the supporting cast members their moments to shine, because Black Widow, Nick Fury, and of course Falcon are just as important as the title character. And even though, like I said before, they kept the action very grounded in the hand-to-hand style fighting, let's not forget that we're watching a film that's part of the Avengers franchise, so there needs to be a certain amount of spectacle, alright? And thanks to Captain America's high-flying sidekick, Falcon gives us a significant amount of that spectacle, and that will please a lot of the Avengers fans. Now let's talk about the direction of the film. Captain America the Winter Soldier is directed by the Russo brothers, and that is Joe and Anthony Russo. And what I love about these directors is that they took the traditional sequel question, and that is, how do we make this one better and different? And they completely spun it around, because they wrapped a political thriller around an Avengers character film while still keeping it a personal story about Captain America. It is very much character driven, but at the same time, it's driven by a developing story and some really great visuals. It kind of plays out like a Tom Clancy film, but way more exciting. It's full of mystery and intrigue, and it keeps us as an audience very engaged to the story, and they don't forget that the foundation of this film is still that of a superhero. Now, there's also a fair amount of exposition that helps us connect with the characters, which is really, really well done, because throughout the entire movie, you are just thoroughly engaged from beginning to end. The directors decided to make a very bold move in making it play out more like a political thriller with action in it, instead of an action spectacle like the Avengers and the Iron Man films. I mean, they're so full of spectacle, but Captain America the Winter Soldier doesn't play out like that. It's more raw, it's more traditional, and maybe that's what fans needed after watching so many films with Iron Man in it. And I totally respect them for taking this approach for not only just a Captain America film, but for the genre itself. When I first heard about the Russo brothers directing Captain America the Winter Soldier, I was totally neutral about it, simply because I did not know what to expect. I'd never seen any of their work, and also they didn't have a whole lot of genre-related film credits. A lot of their credits were from TV series productions. But ultimately, I think that is exactly what the fans needed. They needed a fresh new vision, and the keyword is being fans, because the Russo brothers are in fact fans of the original source material, and it helps so much in telling the story when you know your stuff. And what's great about the Russo brothers is that they made this movie feel like a totally different film from the other ones, while still managing to keep it connected to the first film and also Avengers, which is a really great nod to the fans of not just the films, but also the comics. And just like the Avengers, this film is full of surprises. And speaking of the Avengers, the big question is it better than the Avengers? Well, while I feel that these two films are very different in comparison, at the end of the day, they're both comic book movies. So I'm gonna put Captain America the Winter Soldier right up there with the Avengers. And I can't say that it's better than the Avengers, but it's just as good as the Avengers. Imagine the Avengers, but with no over-the-top superpowers, but the team is still able to keep it action-packed and very entertaining for the audience with just their physical abilities alone. That is Captain America the Winter Soldier. I gave the Avengers 9.75 out of 10, and I'm gonna give Captain America the Winter Soldier a 9.5 out of 10. Still a very high score. It's a near perfect film, and I've said a lot of great things about it, but it isn't without some very, very minor flaws. And none of these flaws actually affect my overall enjoyment of the film. I just felt that there are some things that could have been improved. For example, editing, all right? What I mean by editing is that, well, let me give you an example. We find that our heroes are in a situation, and then suddenly they're out of that situation, all right? It feels like there's something in between that could have been inserted in between point A and point B. It felt like something's missing, so I felt that there was some poor editing in that department, but it really doesn't affect my enjoyment of the film. I just felt that, okay, that was kind of weird. And another thing is that I felt that the Winter Soldier is a character with a lot of depth, but we just got to see mostly his physical abilities and not so much the mind and what's going on inside his head, right? We don't get to see a whole lot of that. We just get to see him as a formidable opponent, but I'm sure he's a character with a lot more depth to him. So I would have liked to see more Winter Soldier. Another thing is that I love Falcon, and I want to see more Falcon, okay? Sam Wilson is such an awesome supporting character as not only Sam Wilson, but the Falcon, and I think that another sequence, another maybe 1 or 2 minute sequence with Falcon and doing all his spectacular stunts in the movie would have been great. So that's my only I guess, real complaint about the film, which is not really a complaint at all. I just feel that these are some things that could have been improved. But at the end of the day, I love this film and I highly recommend it. Watch it in 3D. It's a great 3D post-conversion. They did a good job in giving us the depth, and it's just a great overall experience. Watch Captain America the Winter Soldier because it is an awesome film. 9.5 out of 10. And there you have it. That is my review of Captain America the Winter Soldier. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, if you enjoyed this review, hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like me on Facebook, The Ragin Nation, follow me on Twitter @Ragin Nation, and also check out my photos on Instagram @The Ragin Nation. My name is Alex Yu. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace. It would have been great to see that actually happen. Unfortunately, Quentin Tarantino has too many scripts on his plate, and a lot of stories that he wants to put onto film.